Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Cooper of Cooper's Mobile Mechanics, and this week I'll just be showing you a full working week as a mobile mechanic. So if you haven't seen the channel before, this is what I do basically. I'd like to show you what it's like, sometimes showing you a full week, sometimes showing you just a full day, or sometimes showing you one job from start to finish. So if that sounds like the sort of thing that you're interested in watching, please hit the subscribe button to keep up to date with more content like it. So we've got a nice start to the week this week. Just a pair of services at the same address. So both just simple oil and filter changes. One on the Fiat 500 and one on this BMW 1 Series. So both jobs are just going to be exactly the same really. So let's say oil and filter on both. Just full inspection on the vehicle. So checking the things like the tyres, the brakes, steering and suspension components, all that sort of thing. Stamping the service book, and then just writing down anything that I find in the inspection, just write them down, leave it at the inspection sheet for the customer. I think the first thing with this one is I usually sort of preempt them as to what service is going to be next. So according to the age and mileage of the car, this one next year is going to be due the timing belt, and it's also going to be due the major service as well. So I'll just make them aware of that. Obviously that might be a little bit of a costly job, so at least if I tell him now, at least he knows about it, so he's anticipating what the bill might be like next year. It's not as much of a shock for him. Alright, so the Fiat's all done. I'm just doing the 1 Series. Turns out I was lying earlier. I forgot I'm actually doing the microfilter on this one as well. But I've also noticed, so I've just gone to reset the service light, and the brake fluid change light is on, so that's due. So I've just messaged the customer now just to see if he wants me to do the brake fluid change while I'm here. So I said, yeah, that's fine, crack on. So we're going to do the oil and filter, microfilter, which is the pollen cabin filter, and a brake fluid change as well. Right, so next up I've got BMW X3. The customer's complaining of a washer fluid leak. So he's saying over, probably last about 5 weeks, he's saying, and then it's getting low. He said he's noticed sort of patches of fluid down the bottom as well. So I think what I'm going to do, so I've taken the inner wheelhouse liner out. This is the bottle here. Basically goes behind the wing like that. I think I'm going to fill up with water and then just see if I can see where it's leaking from. The pump and everything is tucked right back here. You can't really see it, so I might just have to get the bottle out. We've got a 10mm bolt here, and then it all kind of drops, tilts over like this to get it out. So I might have to get the whole thing out and just sit it there so that I can see everything, then fill it up and see where it's leaking from. Right, so I think I've found what the problem is. So I filled it up. There's no leaks anywhere. It's not leaking out, so you got your pump down here. Thought maybe it might be leaking from there. Wasn't any leaks, but what I did notice was it seemed to fill up quite quickly to the top, and then eventually, after a while, it just sort of all of a sudden just sort of released a load of air, just went bloop, and then dropped back down. And it's got on the top, it's like a little breather pipe on the top of the tank, with what should be a sieve, which was quite blocked up. That hole is a hole that I've pinched, and it was all quite blocked up. So I think what's happening when that's on there, the tanks, you think it's filled, but it's not actually filled up because there's a load of air stuck in there, and then all of a sudden it will just glug down. Obviously the level will then drop really low without the customer knowing about it. It could happen sort of 20 minutes after you've just filled it up, and then obviously, so you've only sort of essentially half filled up the washer bottle, and then after a few weeks of using it, it then drops down and the level comes up. You then fill it up again, does the same thing, so you're only really sort of half filling it each time. So I think for now what I'm going to do is leave this off so that when you're filling it up, the air is allowed to escape and you'll be able to fill it up properly, and see how we get on. But yeah, like I say, water leaks, I haven't seen a leak from this at the minute. Only thing I have noticed, which is normal, so on the scuttle all along here, you've got a drain that goes down there, which then comes out from here and drains out the bottom, which is where he's been seeing the water. So when you get heavy rain, or if you use the washers a lot, or if you get heavy rain and you get water building up on the skull, it will just drop down there. So that may be the sort of leak that he's seeing. But yeah, I think for now, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put it together, leave that little, the top of the breather off, because I think that's just blocking it up. It's not allowing the air to come out. I'm going to leave that off and then fill it up and see how we get on. Right, so I've filled that up, and so far, level hasn't dropped. It's been there for about 10-15 minutes. Level hasn't dropped. I haven't noticed anything leaking from here, so I think I'm quite happy that is sorted the issue. So it's really now just a case of getting the wheel arch liner and everything back on, putting all the trims back up in the engine bay and get the wheel on, and sorted. Okay, so it's Thursday morning. I'm back with the 5 Series with the coolant leak that I showed you on the last video. So it is coming from, if you haven't seen already, where this coolant pipe goes into here. There's a big long connector and it's leaking from there. So I've already taken a couple of bits off. Basically, just need to take the inlet manifold, get that off and out of the way, get the pipe off here, and then I can just swap that connector over. I've done a lot of filming this week, to be fair. Well, not for this video anyway. So there's filming on Monday, and then Tuesday I didn't really get a chance to do much. Yesterday is I did a wet melt on a 1.2 Corsa, so I think I'm going to just show that as a full complete video on its own, probably in the next week or so. So yeah, today I've had a Mini first service this morning. I've just got this coolant flange to replace, and then later on I've got a BMW Z4 for rear disc pads and a caliper. And then I think he's got a brake pipe that's corroded on the front, so I'm not sure if it's the flexi or the actual solid pipe. Just got an advisory on the MOT, so I'll have a look at that and see if that's something that we can sort today. And then tomorrow, what have I got tomorrow? I've got a service on a Passat in the morning, and then I've got some disc pads to do on a Mazda CX-5. And then I think his wife's car, she's got a Mazda 2, I think it is. She's got like a knock-in while she's braking, so she can hear like a click-in, knock-in type noise. So I'll probably have a look at that while I'm there as well. Alright, so I did do a little bit of filming, just showing how to set the manifold out and everything. But then I realised after that my microphone wasn't turned on, so clever me. But anyway, essentially got the manifold out, and then this connector sits here. Basically the reason for getting the manifold out is just to get to that top bolt there. You can get to the bottom two without it, but you just need to get to that top bolt. So you can see, hopefully you can see anyway, there's a crack along this pipe, just runs along there. I don't know if it's picking up on the camera. Yeah, once you've got it out, you can see there's a crack running along the side, so that's where it was leaking from. So I've got a new connector to go on. It's a new genuine one, comes with a gasket, and I've got new bolts to put on there. So yeah, really I just need to bolt that back on, get the manifold back on, and get the coolant in and get it all bled up. Right, next up I've got a BMW Z4 for some MOT repairs. So I've got a driver's side rear brake caliper to replace, doing the disc pads as well. So I just need to clamp off the brake flexi so I can get the brake caliper off, and then just your standard disc pads replacement. Don't really know what's going on there. Looks like someone's damaged the sensor before, and just rather than replacing it, just tied it up. But got a new sensor to put on anyway. And then also he's got an advisory for the driver's side front brake pipe being corroded, so have a look at that and see if that's something that I can repair while I'm here. Right, new disc pads and caliper on, new sensor. Bit of a pain, these sensors, they're massive. So usually the wear sensor will probably go to out here, and then you'll have the connector. Now on these ones it goes through this suspension arm, then it travels under, and then it goes behind the wheel arch liner. It's kind of tucked all the way back here. Yeah, I've just had to cable tie it on here. It should have a clip where it clips on here. Obviously that's been broken previously. That's where it was all broken and tied up before, wasn't it? But yeah, that's all sorted now, so no more binding on the brakes on this side. And I'll just go over and do the other side and then have a look at the front. Right, Friday morning, first job is a service. This Volkswagen Passat. So we're doing the oil and filter, got a new sump plug, and we're doing the fuel filter. Now, if you've been following my videos for a while, you might notice that services, they vary what filters I'm doing. So what I do is I'll look at the manufacturer's schedule, because manufacturer's schedule will tell you what service is due either on age or on mileage. So for instance, the fuel filter on this particular vehicle, it's just every 60,000 miles. There's no age on it, it's just 60,000 miles. Obviously the oil and filter, that's due every year or 10,000 miles, whichever comes soonest. So a lot of places will do they'll do an oil and filter and then they'll do the air filter as well. And they'll do that every year. Or they'll do like a full major service. So they do all the filters every year. Or they'll just do the oil change every year. But what you tend to find is when they do it like that, either you get certain filters that get neglected and don't get changed when they should. So they might just do the oil and filter and the air filter every year, but they'll ignore the fuel filter and the pollen filter, or the opposite, and they'll do everything, and everything will get changed sooner than it should. So like your air filter on this will be sort of every 4 years, or I think 60,000 miles or 4 years, whichever comes first. But if that's getting changed every year, it's kind of a waste of money for the customer. So yeah, I'll just stick to the manufacturer schedule. So each year, every time I get a message from a customer for a service, I'll check the manufacturer schedule, obviously see what I did last year, and then just work it out from there, see what filters are due. And I'll find that's the best way of keeping on top of changing everything when it should. Like I say, there's two reasons. One, filters won't get neglected, so they'll get changed when they should do, same as the brake fluid change, things like that. But also, it's not wasting the customer's money. There's no point in me changing everything every year. It's just going to be more expensive for the customer unnecessarily. Fuel filters on these are quite nice and simple, to be fair. So you just got to take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screws holding on. They're T25s, I think they are. I'll just get a couple of rags, stick them around here, because you basically take those off, lift the top off, and then you've got a paper filter inside there. When you take that off, you're going to get fuel splashing over here, so I'll stick a couple of rags down there. Probably still going to make a little bit of a mess, to be fair, it's inevitable, but obviously what you don't want is fuel to just splash all over the place, do you? But yeah, with any luck, these should just come off just with a little screwdriver. Shouldn't be too tight. We'll find out. There you go, perfect. So I'll just whiz these off, and then I'll just show you once I've got the top off. What Volkswagen have inadvertently done as well is given you some nice little holes there where you can put your screws. So it saves you putting them over there or down here or somewhere and having them just rolling around and losing them. Just pop them in like that. Obviously, they didn't do that on purpose, but it's really handy. So you've got it lifted up there. See, that's your filter in here. Just get a little hook, pull that out. Not going to film it while doing it because I want to use two hands. You want to be really just slow and careful bringing it out, because if you pull it up too quickly, you are going to get fuel go everywhere. It's the original filter. See there, it's got Volkswagen Audi Group stamped on there, but it's also got MAN filters, MAN make filters. So that's what we'll put them back in. We'll also find on the air filter, same thing. See, where is it? There. MAN and Hummel. So MAN filters, they make the air filters, they make the fuel filters. Sometimes the fuel filters, they're UFI. A lot of the time they're MAN. Pollen filters as well. A lot of the time they're MAN filters, or sometimes they are, I've seen Denso filters stamped on the original filter. But yeah, that's why I tend to use MAN, is because that's what you tend to find on a lot of mainly German cars, Volkswagen Audi Group, a lot of BMWs. You'll notice the genuine filters they're made by MAN. Alright, next up I've got a Mazda CX-5 for a set of front disc and pads. So messaged me the other day, said you can hear some grinding from the brakes So I came and had a look the other day, and as you can see there, not much left on these pads. The grinding, basically sort of the backing plate of the pad is rubbing and grinding on the disc. So we're doing set disc and pads this morning, so should be nice and straightforward job. I'm just going to check, same as usual, I'm going to take it off, check the sliding pins there and there, make sure they can go in and out nicely. So obviously if they're seized, it could be why they've worn down. I think, judging by the other side, they're pretty evenly worn both sides, so they should be okay, but we're obviously going to check them anyway. So we've got the pads out. You can see there's nothing left on them. That you can see there where it's been grinding, so that'll be the noise that he's hearing, especially metal to metal. So yeah, definitely needs disc and pads. So the sliding pins are moving backwards and forwards nicely. They're not seized, so I'm just going to give the caliper carrier a good clean up. So I'm going to take these off, clean behind there, all the rust build-up that it's got. The fitting kit, you can get a new fitting kit. That's where the pins go on. The pads, sorry. That's where the pads go on. They slide backwards and forwards here. These ones, they're not in bad condition. They're not rusty. They're just covered in brake dust. So we can clean these up and they'll be absolutely fine to reuse, no problem. Alright, so they're all cleaned up. So, like I say, took these off, cleaned up behind there, got the dust and any rust build-up off. Clean these as well. They're looking good as new. Just got a bit of brake paste here, so I'm just going to stick it on there. Just on all 4 points basically, which is where the brake pads are going to sit on. So that'll just allow them to, like I say, move backwards and forwards nicely. So you've got no real risk of them seizing up. So these cleaned up, got a bit of brake paste on there. These will move it backwards and forwards nicely. So brake should be absolutely perfect once this is done. That's the new disc and pads fitted, looking much better. So just going to put a little bit of the brake pad grease that I used, put a little bit around the hub, just to stop the wheel from sticking on. Sometimes when you go to take a wheel off, they kind of corrode and they stick on. You have to end up giving it a good belt to get the wheel off. So all the wheels off, clean that up, just put a bit of grease on there just to make it easier for the next person to get the wheel off. Back with the Z4 from yesterday, so I sorted out the rear brakes. Now it's going to be, this is the brake pipe that's corroded, got an advisory on the MOT. So I think what I'm going to do is replace the whole complete pipe. So it runs along here through the wheel arch liner, and then it comes out through here onto the ABS unit on there. So I think I'm just going to take the whole complete thing out, make a new pipe. I've got a new brake flexi, just in case I need it, which I think probably I'm going to need it, to be fair, because looking at the union on here, I don't think that's going to come away from the flexi pipe very well. As it happens then, the pipe actually came out of the flexi nicely. So I'm just taking it out of there. I've just pulled back the wheel arch liner here, and then I have taken it off from there. So all I've got to do really is get my brake pipe and try and make it into that shape, which is easier said than done, I think. Right, I've made my new pipe. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. Should pretty much have all the bends in all the right places, but we'll see what it's like, see how it fits when I try and bolt it back in. You know what, I'm quite pleased with how that's turned out. Looks alright. So I think what I'm going to do is just put the pressure bleeder on, leave it for sort of 10-15 minutes, see if there's any leaks, and then I'll pressure bleed the brakes. I'll have to do the ABS activation with the computer, get it all bled through properly. I'll just quickly show you how I went about making the pipe. So I'll just show you with a little piece here. So what you basically want to do is get the V-unions So they're what screw one into the ABS pump, one into the flexi. Basically put a union on there, and then with your tool you put the brake pipe, so the brake pipe goes in this way into there, and then on the end of that, just trying to show you one-handed, use this a little bit, screw that in until it stops, so that's where you know how far the brake pipe sticks out, probably goes to about there. And then you've got this one, I'm using that end. Again, you screw that into there with a 16mm ratchet spanner, screw it in all the way into the end, and that will give you a nice flare on the end of the pipe, so then the union won't come off. And then do the same on the other side. And then what I did, I'll put a 13mm socket in the vise there. I've just got the old brake pipe, matched it up with this new one, and every time there was a bend, basically just bent it around the socket, just give me a nice curve. I've tried doing it, you can do it with your hands rather than doing it with the socket, but you kind of risk kinking it rather than bending it. So at least with the socket, you know you're getting a nice round bend. Just follow that all the way along. So that thing probably had about 6 bends in it. Yeah, it's come out looking alright, to be fair. It's not perfect, but I'm happy with it. That's me done for the day and done for the week. So I think it's been a pretty good week. Can't think there's been any dramas off the top of my head, to be fair. Like I say, Wednesday I did a wet belt on a Vauxhall Corsa. I was on the little 1.2 engine. So I'll film that from start to finish. That's going to be a separate video that I'll upload probably next week while I'm away. Yeah, I hope you've enjoyed watching this video. Hopefully you've learned something or just all around found it interesting. If you have, then please like, comment, subscribe, share it around with your friends and family if they haven't seen me already. And yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.